Hello, beautiful people. Mic check, mic check. How we doing? It's good to see y'all. Hit the like button. This is going to be a pretty quick live because I only have about a half an hour, but and I may be back because this may not be the only thing that it shows up on the docket. So, just my disclaimers that this for this channel is going to be quick. We'll be here less than 30 minutes. Um, If you don't know, it's been an eventful week on the Drake v. UMG docket. Earlier this week, Drake's attorneys filed two motions to compel. That is, asking the judge to force UMG to hand over documents that they have requested in discovery that UMG has said no. The first motion to compel is specific to CEO Lucian Grange. Um, Drake wants access to his files. UMG responded to that last night. We read it here. We read Lucian Grange's sworn declaration under penalty of perjury, where he buoyed the hell out of Drake. So you can run back the lives on the motions to compel, and you can run back the live from last night reading UMG's response to both motions to compel. But nevertheless, the second motion to compel is specific to Kendrick Lamar's contract with UMG. Drake wants a full unredacted copy of Kendrick Lamar's contract. And again, you should go back to last night's live to read UMG's response and all of the detail that is in there that we learn um, about what they've already given Drake, an agreement that they already had with Drake's counsel regarding Kendrick's contract, which Drake appears to have reneged on because the portions that were given to him under agreement after he saw them were not satisfactory, I guess. But again, run it back to last night's live for all of the details. So the way that this goes is when a party files a motion, like a motion to compel, they write their argument down on paper, they submit it to the judge. The other party responds. That's what we read last night. And then the party that filed the motion gets a rebuttal to the opposition. And so that's what we're looking at right now. We are looking at Drake's response to UMG's opposition to give him Kendrick Lamar's contract. And again, if you want to get into all the details of what it is they have already given Drake surrounding this issue, what their take on it is, um, and the agreement that they had, run it back. Wait, is this the right one? I may have misspoken entirely. Hold on. I need to check myself. We may be here for no reason whatsoever. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? But it happens. Let me check myself. Let me check the docket. Okay, so I misspoke. This is a letter from UMG's attorneys. So got that wrong. Let me fix some things here. And I appreciate your patience. So this is not Drake's lawyers. This is UMG. UMG has filed a motion to seal Kendrick's contract. So I apologize for I barely look at things before I go live. So if you're like, how'd she screw that up? That's how. I was moving very fast. I knew I had a very short amount of time. I thought I knew what I was looking at. I was wrong. So let me go ahead and restate what this is that we're actually looking at. We are actually looking at a letter from UMG to the judge in protection of Kendrick's contract. So again, my apologies for any confusion there. We write on behalf of defendant UMG Recordings pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 5.2 and Section 10 of the court's individual rules and practices in civil cases in support of sealing the redacted contract between UMG and Kendrick Lamar Duckworth that plaintiff Aubrey Drake Graham filed in connection with his motion to compel. UMG produced the redacted contract to Drake in response to his discovery request for any contract between UMG and Lamar, reflecting UMG's right to approve, reject, refuse to publish, edit, amend, alter, or veto the publication of Lamar's songs or music videos. The redactions limit the disclosure to the parts of the Lamar contract necessary to understand any such rights available to UMG. And I clarified this last night. They are not saying that they gave Drake a redacted contract with this portion exposed that affirms that UMG does retain these rights. There is a section in the contract that addresses these issues, and that's what they gave him, which is the same thing. But the presumption of what the language says is an issue here that we've all been caught up with because Drake has defined it a certain way. But we don't actually know what's in Kendrick's contract in that section. We don't know who has final say. We don't know what it says in that section. We know that Drake's attorneys got that section unredacted, but we don't know what it actually says. It's just the section of the contract that would define whatever those terms are, if they exist. So again, the redactions limit the disclosure to the part of the Lamar contract necessary to understand any such rights available to UMG. UMG respectfully requests that the court allow the Lamar contract to remain under seal because even as redacted, it contains commercially sensitive and confidential business information. Although there is generally a presumption against sealing judicial documents, the presumption of public access in filings submitted in connection with discovery disputes is generally somewhat lower than the presumption applied to material introduced at trial or in connection with dispositive motions. Okay, my assumption here is that they have put this on the docket because they want to protect the docket entry that has Kendrick Lamar's redacted contract from the media. It is absolutely routine and customary for the media to, first of all, take a court action. They could do that to try and get access to things that the public, has an overwhelming interest in. That's the simplified version of what their legal argument would be. But there are other ways you can just ask. You can contact the clerk and say, hey, we're putting in a request for, or we want to let you know, and da 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 da. So I would imagine either through forethought or through some awareness of the press is going to come at the courts to try and get what was entered onto the docket by Drake's lawyers a few days ago, which includes a copy of Kendrick Lamar's redacted contract. They're taking the preemptive move here to say, you need to keep that document under seal. It is sensitive, has proprietary, non-public information. But and addressing the fact that the bar for the public, vis-a-vis the press, getting such things at this stage from the court is relatively low, and we need to point out to you why it would be problematic if this document were to be released. Moreover, even when the presumption applies at full strength, courts regularly seal proprietary, competitively sensitive business information. As the Circuit Court of Appeals has explained, commercial competitors seeking an advantage over rivals need not be indulged in the name of monitoring the courts. Additionally, courts in this district seal certain contracts in their entirety, where those contracts reflect an ongoing contractual relationship with one of a party's current business partners, because the party's business relationships and interests and the privacy interests of non-parties would be detrimentally affected by the disclosure of confidential contracts that the parties to the sealed contract expect would remain private. Here, UMG seeks sealing of negotiated contract terms relating to whether and to what extent. Listen to that language. This points to what I said earlier about, let's be clear about what they gave him and what they didn't give him. And they say it here. UMG seeks sealing of negotiated contract terms relating to whether and to what extent UMG exercises control over the content and publication of Kendrick Lamar's creative output. This is clearly commercially sensitive information. If these terms were disclosed, then other artists could use them in their own negotiations with UMG, such as by demanding either similar or different treatment. And other record labels could use them when competing with UMG to sign or re-sign artists, including potentially Kendrick Lamar himself. Thus, sealing is warranted because public disclosure of these confidential negotiated contract terms would be detrimental to UMG's competitive standing and business relationships with current and prospective partners. Sealing is further warranted because the Lamar contract reflects an ongoing contractual relationship with one of UMG's current business partners and would expose information that both UMG and Kendrick Lamar expect to remain private. For the foregoing reasons, UMG respectfully requests that the court grant leave to file the Lamar contract under seal. Yes, I am, babes. If the mods could pass around the links, that would be great. The link is also in the description of the YouTube channel. Yes, I am. Get you some goodness, paperback or hardcover. So again, for anybody who's like, "What? Wait a minute! I thought this was about." And yes, the title of the video did change at the very beginning of this because I didn't look at it and I misread the half a sentence that was in the description of the document when I downloaded it. So this is not Drake's response to UMG. We read UMG's responses last night. This is UMG's lawyers saying to the judge, you need to seal from access Kendrick Lamar's contract. Full stop. But the version that Drake has and has put on the docket, the redacted version. And why? It's sensitive, it's proprietary, it's active, and they cite a bunch of case law in this protect the contract so that we can protect our business interests filing. So it would be asinine, completely asinine and petty. Where have we seen that before? For Drake's lawyers to say, to that. That would be dumb. So this is routine. It's smart. It's proactive action to make sure um, it doesn't happen. Um, they didn't. We can't see it on the docket, but it's there. We can't see it on the docket, but it is there. So this is take every precaution possible through the power of the court to protect the document from becoming public. I might need to make that t-shirt. Baby, because if they had posted the redacted thing openly on the docket, we would have looked at it here. We would have looked at it here. Oh, yes. We're not gonna let that we're not gonna pass that up. I was mad during that live, as a matter of fact. I was mad during that live because I said, "This motherfucker." I thought that they had posted it because I could see it. And then I clicked on it and it said, "You don't have access to this document." So this is a fortification of that. Somebody bought that book fast. Thank you. Yeah, it's perfectly allowed. And yeah, I think they've been in contact from day one. I think that, yeah, I think they've been in contact from day one and I don't know necessarily, well, I don't know anything. But so figure of speech, right? I don't know necessarily if that means that PG Lang's lawyers are in contact with the external firm that is representing UMG in this case, or if PG Lang's attorneys are just in contact with Interscope's attorneys and receiving information that way because Interscope does actually interface with these attorneys. Um, but I believe that he has known legal details of the legal situation from day one. And he should. His art is at the center of it. You've got somebody who's sending demand letters to have your art unpublished. The publication company is probably going to let you know. We've received a cease and desist to remove your song based on an allegation of defamation. That's business. There doesn't have to be a conspiracy. People don't have to be that's business. So, I think it has been a conversation from day 1, and I think that conversation remains ongoing. So, those are my thoughts. You're welcome, beautiful. Yeah, so I would encourage folks, like I said, if you haven't seen I mean, we had a time this week, child. I think my favorite live this week was probably the most satisfying live was last night reading UMG's responses to Drake and Lucian Grange's declaration. Like, that was, like, just satisfying, like, my favorite was probably the live reading of the transcript because I've never done that before. And when I was watching it back, putting the chapters in, I was like, I did a really good fucking job. And I was watching it very closely. I couldn't do it during the live, but after, again, in the replay, I was watching the chat very closely, and y'all were picking up what both sides were laying down, what the judge was saying. Like, you were into it like you were watching it happen. So that is probably my favorite one from this week. And then before that, we had the live actually reading what originated all of this, which is the 2 motions to compel. So there's a lot there, for you to feed yourself on just what has happened and why this letter exists and why we're talking about it right now. Yeah. We also had a live to clarify the issue around whether or not Drake is demanding a DNA test of Kendrick's kids, which is the most ludicrous bullshit I've heard in a while. So it's addressed there. You can get the actual facts there. So yeah, it's been a busy week. But yeah, he mad. He big mad. He's in his feelings and very satisfying to see him get called out on the docket in court filings. And that definitely happened last night by the lawyers and by Lucian Grange. And I think it was a bold, strategic move on their part. And I think it serves a lot of purposes for UMG, that declaration from Lucian. First of all, it's a declaration under penalty of perjury. Of abso-fucking-lutely not, Your Honor. Um, it gets right at the heart. It gets right at the heart of Drake's entire conspiracy. It goes right to the heart of it. Obviously, they have to answer these motions to compel. One of the things that they include is a denial from somebody like Lucian Grange saying, "I don't have shit to hand over to this man." And this is ridiculous. He's absurd, laughable, farcical. He's petty. He's trying to force a commercial renegotiation of a contract he doesn't like. And that's why he's doing this. It was like all over the place. So it does all of those things, but they are also keenly aware that everybody is waiting for the judge's decision on motion to dismiss. And I know that they are hoping it has some level of impact there as well. So, no, I don't think Lucian takes Drake's phone calls. I think he stopped taking Drake's phone calls a long time ago. A long time ago. You can pick your spot in the timeline of Drake fucking up, of where that is. I have my own personal thoughts. He can't reach him. Like I said last night, you are too poor to say his name, let alone call him. And you plastering him all over your lawsuit? Lucian said, "Get my name out your filthy peasant mouth. I own most of your shit. What the fuck are you talking about? I'm not down there in the weeds on song releases." Pish posh. It depends on what you're gonna repeat and whether or not you're gonna get booted out. What do you think? Rhetorical question. There are a lot of people who don't understand, and it's amazing, and I'm not saying you're one of these people. I'm just saying your comment reminded me of this. There are a lot of people who it amazes me to this day that people will say, "Why is he even suing? Kendrick has no relationship with UMG. He is an independent artist." PG Lang and Kendrick Lamar absolutely have contractual relationships with UMG. If they didn't, we wouldn't be here. And so, definitely, again, not you, other people. You need to look at the empirical evidence in front of you and stop listening to YouTubers and TikTokers. They are not more right than a court document. They are not more right than a lawsuit, wherein to file it, you have to show standing, relevance, that the parties actually do have a legal role in the situation. And in this case, UMG republished or published, depending on whose version of events you wanna take, not like us. There is a contractual relationship there. Obviously, they're arguing about contracts. And people who say he has no right to that information. You don't know that because you don't know the law. You disagree with his decision to go for it. So do I. But if somebody can show through legal argument the legal relevance of something, then they will win a motion to compel. So that's the reality of the situation. And again, I imagine this is just the first two of what could potentially be many motions to compel on either side. Discovery usually happens behind closed doors. It only gets to where we see it if they can't agree amongst themselves. They can't agree over about Drake not going into Lucian's files. They can't agree. Well, they had an agreement and Drake reneged. So they can't agree on what aspects of Kendrick Lamar's contract he does or doesn't get. So they go to the judge. They argue it out. And then the judge decides, as a matter of law, what is relevant and what is not relevant. And that's where we are. All right. So again, run it back. If you've got questions about all of the things that happened and what about 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 to the replay gang, I'm not going to answer those questions, beloved, in the comment section. I had somebody, couple somebodies get real snippy with me asking questions. And when I say I covered it in a live, the video is called Heaven Forbid You Explain It to Somebody Who Doesn't Know That You Talked About It Already. Heaven forbid you not be a lazy ass and go watch the video where the information is laid out for you there to the best of my ability. Okay? Fair? Totally fair. I will see you all very soon.